Marco Rossi, the highly anticipated and current Iowa Wild forward. Marco Rossi checks in from Des Moines. Plus, what can we define as a slump? As always, we're created by New Voice Studios, presented by SotaStick, brought to you by Jim Beam and BettorEdge. This is season 3, episode 114.
SotaStick is constantly releasing the best homage gear to Minnesota. Pay your respects to ODR with an association tee or hoodie, or snake any variety of palm beanies for the below zero temps. There's even a Bardown Beauties one for you to grab. Code Bardown Beauties always gets you 15% off all purchases at SotaStick.com.
At Jim Beam, they know the importance of tradition, like chanting "Let's play hockey" prior to the start of each game, or playing the State of Hockey anthem after a Wild win. This season, raise one to your fan family with the bourbon that invites us all to come as friends and leave as family. Jim Beam Bourbon Whiskey, the official bourbon whiskey partner of the Minnesota Wild and XL Energy Center. Remember, drink smart. Jim Beam Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey, 40% alcohol by volume, copyright 2021, James B. Beam Distilling Company, Incorporate, Claremont, Kentucky.
From New Voice Studios.
Oh yeah, you betcha. Let's go to the boat.
Discombobulate on the spot.
Part of the Talk North Podcast Network.
Fly out to Russia personally.
Jesse Pierce.
This is off the rails. We're only a couple minutes in.
Alexis Pearson.
We're not going to throw batteries on the ice at, Kirill Kaprizov. We're not that crazy. Like...
Bardown Beauties Podcast.
Was it about guys getting hammered down low night after night?
Like, everyone loves to crap on analytics, but the analytics do not lie here.
We are firing Fred at the top of the hour.
More hit. It's like T. T.
Starts now.
Hello, everybody. We're back, episode 114. Joining us later, Marco Rossi, who just might be the savior the Minnesota Wild need right now. Because, Alexis, I want to talk about slumps, right?
Yep.
We, as watchers, as media, try not to hang up too much like, 4 in a row, what have you. This 4 in a row is very different than the previous losing streak that the Minnesota Wild were on. It just seems like the wheels are off. It's a little unhinged. I'm sorry, they're 1-3 in their past 4. I should stand myself corrected on the road trip. But it's not looking good. Latest loss to Calgary. The problem I think I'm having mostly with this current slump, and I'm calling it a slump, is the fact that these are all against contenders, true Stanley Cup contenders. And it's kind of showing you what Minnesota's made of.
Yeah, I think I've got a couple issues with it, and I'm calling it hashtag not a slump, as people may have seen in my preview yesterday, although I'll change my mind after this Flames game. But here's how I see it. Other than Ottawa, you're playing against some really good hockey teams, right? Like Edmonton's got high-powered offense. Their goaltending sucks, but they've got 2 of the highest scorers in the league. You got Toronto, who's obviously always, got some firepower. And then you've got the Flames, who've been really good this year. And you beat Edmonton, so you start the road trip off on the right note against Canadian teams you don't get to see very often. And then it just goes downhill from there. And I thought the only game that the Wild really looked bad in was the Flames game. I thought they played really well against Toronto, just didn't come out on top. Ottawa was kind of hit or miss for me. And obviously they really dominated against the Oilers. So I just started thinking, I'm like, well, what do you define as a slump? Does it have to be playing bad in every game you lose? Or does it not matter? And just, if you lose, you lose. And if you lose enough in a row, that is called a slump. Because to me, I've always defined it as how they're playing in those games rather than the outcome of the game. I mean, at some point, if you lose, 10 in a row, that's obviously a slump. But when you're dealing with a handful of games like this, that's kind of the way I see it is, okay, if they're losing, but they're still playing well or still scoring goals or whatever, then I'm not as concerned. And the Flames game was the first game in this stretch here where I was like, I don't know. There was a lot that I didn't like about that. And obviously the score was kind of inflated with the empty netters and whatnot, but it seemed like a lot of people were disappointed last night. Jesse, how would you define a slump?
I mean, I think, here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say a losing streak is when you're just straight up losing, right? Like it's,
right.
If it's a 3-2 game, it's overtime, shootout, whatever. That's a losing streak. I will say a slump is exactly what the Minnesota Wild are in right now. Yes, I didn't like how they played in Calgary. I think Calgary was by far the worst, and sure, give credit where credit's due. The teams that they faced on this road trip are very good. And, let's go even back to the Florida game, right? I mean, Florida Panthers are insane, right? I mean, they're so good. But the Ottawa game, hideous. I mean, and I know I've been harsh on the goaltending this year, and it's not necessarily that it's been the goaltending, defensive lapses. There's just been, they've been playing so freaking loose, and it's not been good. I mean, I would say probably their best game on the stretch. They put up a pretty decent fight against Toronto, right? And all things considered. So I thought that was good. I mean, even you look at the Edmonton game, that's kind of a one-off because Edmonton was on a second end of a back-to-back too, right? So who knows what would have happened had they gotten Edmonton in that first game. So, I mean, I think right now, I imagine Dean and Brass are a little bit more concerned than they were earlier in the year, especially because this is the crucial time where you need to be playing well. You need to get out of this. You need every guy showing up. We've kind of lost a little bit of that Ryan Hartman that we used to know. He's just going to bring that up. More physical, right? I mean, you're without a Matt Dumba. Sure. Jordan Greenway is now hurt for an extended period of time. But you're just, the depth has kind of disappeared. Everything that you liked about this Minnesota Wild team during the first half of the season has evaporated, it seems, and it's gone completely kind of awry. What's the answer? I don't know. I mean, it's the problem is they don't have much time to collect themselves because again, as we've talked about time and time again, it is insane from now until the finish line, right? And it seems like other teams are just finding their speed and Minnesota's falling back. And I hate to say it because you've seen this before. You've seen it under Coach Mike Yeo. You've seen it even in 2016-17 where that should have been a deep run. It happens every single time. And it's so frustrating because I do think a lot of people, myself included, believed that this team was only a piece or two away. And, yes, Guerin should get a rental. Now I don't know. Now is it worth giving up a future for a rental if you're really not a contending team? Because if you can't keep up with the Edmontons, with the Floridas, with the Torontos, with the Calgarys, you're not going to bode well in the playoffs. And they still have yet to get head on head with Colorado this year.
Right. Yeah, I think the other big concern to me, other than losing to some of these teams that they could possibly see it towards the end of the playoffs, especially a team like Florida, like Toronto, who, if you're a true cup contender, you might be playing that team in the Stanley Cup finals in a few months. So that was concerning. And the other one was the one that you brought up about some of these pieces that were surprising, pleasant surprises for the Minnesota Wild this year have, I wouldn't necessarily say fallen off, but they haven't continued that streak of scoring or firepower that we saw guys like Ryan Hartman, guys like Marcus Foligno, who at the beginning of the season, you're like, whoa, where did all this scoring come from? It gave us that depth. It gave us the opportunity when Kirill wasn't getting goals in the first, 10 games of the season. We had other guys who were scoring and it was fine. And now you're seeing some of the holes the Wild have. If these guys are going to continue to not score like we've seen them doing here in this recent stretch of games, then you are not a cup contender yet, in my opinion. And you do need to get some more pieces because we always assumed, it's fine because they've got all these other things going on. And now it's almost like, well, do they actually have these pieces, or was that a flash in the pan? What are we looking at here? So I said this in my breakdown for the Flames game. I'm really interested to see how this homestand goes for the Minnesota Wild, because everybody can have bad road trips, and you always, the rule of thumb is to be 500 on the road. The Wild went 1-3 on this road trip. So, they didn't get swept into oblivion. They didn't not pick up a single point, but it obviously wasn't good enough. And I'm really interested to see, do they come back out stronger on home ice or not? If they don't, then I change my mind about what this team is doing right now. If they do, I stay pat with where I'm at. But it's, I understand why Wild fans are panicking a little bit, just because we all know there's still 2 months left and a lot of games to be played.
Right. Although I will caution the panic, let's relax. Yeah. Everybody, it was like a Twitter fire last night. I stayed away. I held my own.
And the Ottawa game. The Ottawa game made me so angry. I
blame you. You got them all fired up. Alexis was like, if they lose to Ottawa, it's the worst thing in the entire world. And it's not. I mean, it wasn't great. It's not.
It's fine. It's fine.
Great. But so that's your fault. I completely blame you for that. Yeah. So, I mean, truthfully, back to the original point, I definitely define this as a slump. And that's, you can get out of it. That should be fine. But they need to get out of it quick. Otherwise, it's going to snowball very quickly on them. Again, considering the amount of games. I mean, like we had talked about, I think, Alexis, a couple weeks ago, was that, oh my gosh, injuries are going to riddle this team with how much game time, and there's not much recovery and whatnot. And so it's going to be a challenge, especially when I know Dean loves to give the guys days off instead of practicing. And it's like, now what do you do when you need to practice? Like, he threw the lines in the blender against Calgary, and I think that was okay, but it became evident again, you don't have a number one center for Zuccarello and Kaprizov. So with that, let's talk to a potential number one center. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Marco Rossi. Before we do that, another reminder to check out BettorEdge, BettorEdge.com. Tuesdays against me. I'm not doing great.
I'm falling off the wagon too, so don't feel bad.
It's not great. You know what I do appreciate about my Beat the Butte on Tuesdays? I never let like just one person take it all.
Yeah.
Like I make sure you guys split it amongst yourselves. So you're winning like maybe $10 and it's like, I don't feel like such a loser. So that makes me feel good. Thank you for that. Again, Thursdays against Alexis code Buttes, BEAUTS will get you a free $10. Stay tuned because when we come back, Marco Rossi.
It's hockey season, baby, and the best way to head into a new season is to be fully equipped with all the merch you need to cheer on your favorite teams. Oh, and some Bardown Beauties merch too, right? Right. We've got you covered. Literally, head over to teespring.com where you can find all kinds of custom designed Bardown Beauties apparel, plus so much more.
Joining us now, a man on a mission who is lighting it up with the Iowa Wild, Mr. Marco Rossi. Marco, how are you?
Thank you. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Tell us, how are things going in Iowa? You seem to be absolutely crushing it down there. What's been the outlook for the squad down in Des Moines this year?
Yeah, so far, like, first of all, our team's doing really great so far. I mean, we have a really good team, and individually, I'm playing not bad right now. I'm happy, but there's always room to improve.
Sure. What areas of your game are you thinking to improve? I mean, from the outside looking in, all the Wild fans see a superstar that they can't wait to get up here in St. Paul. But what are some of the things that you've been working on down in Iowa?
First of all, it's great that I can play again, and just getting as many games as I can to improve myself. And I mean, like, I can feel it now, and then, like, let's say 20 games back, I already have like so much improvement in my game, and I feel way more comfortable right now. So that's first of all a really good sign. But I just want to improve, like, I would say, like, my overall, like, everything, like all these little things, just getting better every day and being as consistent as I can be.
Yeah. You know, you had mentioned being able to play hockey, and hockey's been such a large part of your life. I think that was one thing that really drew me in after the Minnesota Wild drafted you, and you spoke with media and you had talked about your upbringing. For those that aren't familiar with your path through hockey and the long car trips that you used to take, I mean, tell everybody a little bit about Marco Rossi, the child hockey player.
Yeah. First of all, I mean, the hard time was when I was 13. I had to make the decision to go to a different team because where I was playing, it was just not good enough. And then I went to Zurich, and Zurich is like about 1 hour and like 15 minutes away. So at that point, it was really hard because first of all, I didn't make the decision. It was like all the family together, like my mom, my sisters. And because we knew it's going to be really hard. And then like my whole family were like standing behind me and said, okay, let's do that because we trust in you and we want to give you everything what you want and just like follow your dream. And they were like supporting me since day one. And it was really hard because I've talked a lot about that, but I tell the story again. It was always like, I woke up in the morning, like at 6 a.m. Then I went to school. And then after school at 4, my dad picked me up. And for my dad was like, he was getting up like at 4, 5 in the morning. He had to go to work, and then he picked me up from school. And then we went to Zurich. I practiced there. And then after practice, we drove home. I was at home like around 12 midnight. And then sometimes my mom cooked some meal before, and or most of the time she did. And then when I was at home, I had some dinner like late night snack. And my dad did like the equipment just so I can go to bed. And I was like in bed at 1 probably. And then, yeah, we did that for 4 years, and it was hard for me. But I mean, for my dad, it was probably much harder because he had to drive. I could sleep maybe in the car, and all like for my mom, it was hard for my 2 sisters because they didn't see me as much. Mm-hmm. So that was probably really hard. But I mean, you have to sacrifice. So, yeah.
That's just tremendous. Have mom and dad been over to watch you yet here? Or are they just streaming games? What's that been like?
Yeah, they were here in Iowa, and then when I got the call up for Minnesota, they were coming back. So that was really nice.
Yeah. You hear all this. I'm not sure how much attention do you pay to fans? Wild fans are just begging to get you up here, right? I mean, do you pay attention to any of that at all, or do you try to tune it out and focus on yourself and your game right now, or what's that kind of like for you?
To always try to focus just on me and try to avoid social media. But I mean, wild fans are really crazy because they're supporting a player so much. But of course I see all the messages I get, and I mean it's really nice to have fans like that when they're supporting a player, because that just gives you a better feeling.
Yeah. What have you had conversations with Bill Guerin or anything throughout the season as far as this is what we would love to see to get you up here? Or have you kind of just been focused with Tim Army and Bomber and those guys down there? What's that kind of like for you? Because I imagine, like you said, your dream is the NHL, so you're itching just as bad as Wild fans, I'm sure, to get up to St. Paul.
Yeah. First of all, when I'm in Iowa, my mindset is here, because I try not to think too much. Okay, what's going on in Minnesota? Because otherwise I would have so much pressure on myself all the time, and I wouldn't have the right focus. So I try to have my mind when I'm in Iowa, talk with them, and just getting to know, okay, what I have to improve and stuff like that.
Eric Stahl joined you guys in Iowa for a brief stint as he prepared. What types of things did you learn from him, a guy who has had quite the career in the NHL? I mean, were you able to pick up anything from former number 12 for the Minnesota Wild?
Yeah, first of all, it was great to have him because, I mean, he's probably one day a Hall of Famer, and we could learn so much from him, even all the little things he was telling us, and obviously had a lot of questions. So, but the best thing what he told me was just enjoy the moment, because it goes so fast, and yeah, you have to enjoy every second in your career.
Are you enjoying every second? You have to, right?
Yeah, I have to. There's no other choice.
Well, we have some fan questions too, Marco. Again, a lot of people super excited, so we'll dive right in. Michael B., who knows quite a bit about you apparently, said, Marco, you and your father are running an MR training camp this summer in your beautiful home region, a 1-hour drive from Zurich, Switzerland airport. Are you looking forward to it? After game food will reportedly be Viennese Schnitzel, correct?
Schnitzel, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a camp going on in my hometown. We did it last year for the first time, and I mean it's really great to see all the kids coming and just try to promote more hockey back home in Austria, just to get more players to come in, because not too many people play hockey back home. But if these things we can bring more people to hockey. And last year was pretty good. We had a lot of kids at the camp, and I mean that's all what it's about, just to get the kids coming to hockey and having fun and enjoying the moment. And of course on Friday we get some schnitzel sometimes. So yeah,
that's awesome. What age group kids are at the camp?
It's I think 4 age groups. I think it's under 10, under 14, and under 16, then some pro groups.
Nice. I love it. I love it. Well, the dog father wants to know, why number 23? Is there any significance in your sweater number?
It's easy. It's my birthday, so yeah.
That seems fair. Have you always been able to get 23? Have you had to fight anybody for it ever?
Not always, because some teams, when I played in Zurich in the pro team, the number was retired, so I couldn't use it. But when it was available, I always had 23.
Nice. Look at you. And then he also had another question. Any good Thomas Vanek stories? Are you good buds with Vanek? I know he's an adopted Minnesotan, but obviously came from your area.
Yeah, I mean, I was with him. I stayed with him when I was in Minnesota last year for about 3-4 weeks, and then in the summer. I mean, he's a great guy. I really like him. When I got drafted by the Minnesota, he just called me right away, and he was so happy for me. And I mean, it was really nice to see, because I was watching him when I was growing up. He was the big star in Austria, and I think he's the best hockey player in Austria who ever played. Of course, he told me some funny stories, but I think I can't tell everything.
You can't? You got not even one little funny story?
No, like we just talked about funny things about the national teams, and yeah.
That's awesome. Vanek's a good dude to have around. Speaking of home, what food do you miss from home the most?
Schnitzel.
Schnitzel. So explain what is schnitzel. I've never had it. Obviously, like what goes into a schnitzel?
So schnitzel is like chicken, or it's a chicken, and then it's just like breaded. Like I think here in America it's like chicken parm, but it's
okay.
Not really the same. It's like, to be honest, completely different, but it's like also like bread, like with the outside breadcrumbs, and then a potato salad, and like you can't get it here. My girlfriend tries to do it sometimes, so it's really good when she does it, but it's not like 100% the same, but it's close.
Does mom make the best schnitzel in your opinion?
My grandmother.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
God bless your girlfriend for trying, right? She's working on it. Bringing it back here, what's your favorite spot in Des Moines to hang out in your free time?
At the Capitol, I like it. Just to go for a walk there. It's pretty nice there. I mean, for me, like downtown, it's not really super nice to go for a walk because in winter it was really windy and it was so cold. So in wintertime, I'm not going too much outside because it was so cold. But now when the weather's getting better, just going for a walk. Even here in West Des Moines, it's really nice to go for a walk. So yeah.
I love it. Derek F wants to know, how would you say the AHL compares to playing in the Swiss National League? Is it faster, slower? What are some of the main differences?
It's completely different because the AHL is, really tough. The ice surface is smaller, so it's just getting faster like that. And it's grittier, and more battles on the board and stuff like that. So in Switzerland, it's more, I would say like more a flow game.
Mm-hmm. Do you think, Joe B wants to know, how have you handled the physicality of the AHL? I mean, do you think that it's obviously a more physical, rough and tough league? Have you had to change anything in that aspect of your game at all?
A little bit. Like I am like physically pretty good, and I have no problems about that. But it was just like, I would say, more dirtier. Like you always get some slashes with that, and you have to be aware of that and be ready. But other than that, just to play the game. And I know there was always some guys who try to hurt you, so just have to head up more, I think.
Right. DePhilip wants to know, who's the current player in the NHL that reminds you of your style or the play? He thinks that you look like a Braden Point, for instance. Is there any NHL guys that you're trying to emulate or that you think you might mostly relate to?
I don't know, to be honest. I try to be Marco Rossi and not someone else. And but I used to watch when I was a kid, Pavel. But for right now, I don't know who I'm compared to. Like, I don't know. I think the fans should know it better than me. So yeah.
I'm gonna go with, I'm just Marco Rossi, and then people can try to be like a Marco Rossi then, right? I think that's what we go with. And then final question. We were actually on a podcast with the Iowa Heartlanders down in the ECHL, and Teddy, who was a 6-year-old host of said podcast, mentioned that you are his favorite player, and he had a very, very important question for you. Are you ready for it? He wants to know, what is your favorite cookie?
Cookie?
Yes.
To be honest, it's probably a sad answer for him, but I don't eat cookies.
Like ever?
No, I don't like it. I don't know why. When I eat something like candy or like snacks, I always eat chocolate. That's like the only thing I eat. Okay. But I don't eat like other things.
Sorry, Teddy. No cookie luck. So chocolate? Are you milk chocolate or dark chocolate or white chocolate?
Any chocolate, to be honest.
I love it. I love it. Well, Marco, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Hopefully you had some fun. We're excited to continue watching you in Iowa. Obviously thrilled when you get the call up here in to the Minnesota Wild as well. But best of luck the rest of the season. Hopefully we'll be chatting with you again soon.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, this is producer Fred. I just wanted to ask everyone to go out there and spread the word about Bardown Beauties. Leave us a like, share, thumbs up, review, you name it, we want to hear from you. Find us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and of course, your favorite podcast app.
We're back. Shout out again to Marco Rossi and to Mitch Courtney of the Iowa Wild for allowing us to chit chat with him. We might be seeing him sooner than later, Alexis. Like, I don't know. I know they've been very patient with his development. I know he is chomping at the bit to get his butt up here. And again, with the latest slump that they are in, possible that we see Mr. Rossi sooner.
I know Wild fans have been dying to see him up with the Wild, which they got a little glimpse of him. And I think that only made him more antsy to get more of that. And like you said, now that the Wild are showing some holes of what they might still be missing to become a true Cup contender if they aren't already, Marco Rossi could be the answer. That, especially seeing how good Boldy's played. Not to keep comparing the two, I know everybody kind of lumps them in together, but like you see the success Boldy has had early on in his NHL career, and I think people just hope like, okay, if we get Marco Rossi up here, he's going to be the same, and then we just have two of them. And so I get the antsiness, and I'm excited to see him as well, and excited that we had a chance to chat with him, or you guys did, and loved all the fan questions. I know you guys like getting involved, so thanks for sending in all your questions for that as well.
Well, let's talk about defense. No, not the current defense as it sits. You had a great topic, Alexis, last week about bringing back a forward of the past. Now let's bring back a defenseman of the past. Nick Schultz, Brent Burns, Willie Mitchell. Who you slotting in to this defensive unit here at the current Minnesota Wild team? They certainly could use any of these players right now. No discredit again. They're trying their best, except Jordy Ben. But like, what have you? Who are you bringing? Yeah, he's back on it. He's back on Jordy Ben back, right? I'm waiting to say it. He's back. So
and especially missing Matt Dumba too. I think that's showing some holes as well in the defense. We were missing Jonas Brodin for a while. We're missing Jared Spurgeon for a while. So when you have some of these big pieces out, it really shows how important a solid defenseman is. I think defensemen a lot of times just kind of get blended in with everybody else because it's like, hey, just do your job and be quiet about it. And then as soon as one is missing, it's like, oh, okay, like you are really critical, at this with this pairing or in this point in the game. And I was torn between Burnsy and Schultzy, and almost everybody was pro Burnsy, which I totally get that. Like other than I think it's Suter, Spurgeon, Brodin, and then Burns are like the top scorers for defensemen all time for the Wild. And which is kind of crazy when you think about it, because Burns, when he played for the Wild, they did not want him to play offensively. Like they were like, get back on the blue
and he really
line.
wasn't here as long as people think. Like it felt like he really, for him to have made his mark like that. He wasn't here for incredibly long.
So it's kind of incredible that he has as many points as he has for playing on a team where the coaching staff did not want him to be an offensive defenseman. And then obviously he goes to the Sharks and just plays the kind of game he wants to play. And he's incredible. I think though that the Wild could use somebody like Nick Schultz this season. I said this in my tweet about this, is that Nick Schultz kind of reminds me of Ryan Suter in a lot of ways, just like this solid, like reliable defenseman who like makes the plays, he gets the job done. Schultz was kind of offensive too. Like he could put the puck in the back of the net, which Ryan Suter wasn't super, he wasn't known for his like offensive prowess. But I think the Wild could use somebody like Nick Schultz. And I think you're seeing that with some of the, third and fourth D pairings that you've got going on, where you've got like John Merrill, Jordy Ben, some of these guys who it's like, okay, we could use a little bit more like solidness is the word that I don't even know if that's a word, but that's what I think of. It's like, I need some more reliability back there. And I think of Nick Schultz when I think of reliability. And Brent Burns in a lot of ways reminds me of Matt Dumba, and we already have that. So I think with Ryan Suter being gone this season, I would love to see a guy like Nick Schultz back on the blue line. What about you, Jesse?
100% was going to be mine, but cheers. Thank you very much. My only concern is that I think you are seeing more that you do need more stay-at-home defensemen, right? Like everyone's been touting this defense that jumps into the play, moves the pace. My concern would be Schultz would slow it up. Like I don't think Ryan Suter would be very good. I think it would cog up that forward moving defense. Now I would love to have Nick Schultz on this team. Don't get me wrong. Nick Schultz, we're still waiting for you to be a guest on the podcast. Thank you very much. No, I'm going to go with Brent Burns, and I was incorrect. He was here for 7 years. It's a very long time. It just feels like forever since he's been here. So that's why he kind of was like, oh, I don't think he was even here that long, but he's just been with San Jose for longer.
Yeah.
I think you're right. He is he's like a Matt Dumba. The thing about Burns, and I think why Wild fans long for him, is because they see who he is in San Jose. He wasn't going to be that player here in Minnesota because they didn't allow him their defensive trap zone. That wasn't the player they wanted him to be. Now, that being said, he would thrive. He is going to be exactly the guy you're seeing in San Jose. True. Here. Yes, it would be great. You've got him on one line. You got Dumb on another, people that are just going to score. And I think Burnsy's a very solid defenseman too, right? He's
big bodied
two-way hockey. Yes, a great two-way hockey player and a big body that they don't really have much of anymore. If you look at it, Golly and Spurge are small. Bros is kind of big. Dumb's kind of big. Kulikov, I think, is probably your biggest full-rounded player on the.
But Broads and Dumbs are kind of lankier. Like they're not
lanky,
super bulky.
Right.
You
and
know,
that's
Burns
John Merrill too.
Yeah.
Just a beast. So I'm gonna say Brent Burns. Willie Mitchell, like take or leave it. I guess he's a legend here, but I think Burns
he's just kind of a badass.
Not for the fandom, but literally for his play. Like,
well, everyone was on your side, Jesse. All of our listeners were pro Burnsy, and it seemed like they were almost offended I even included any other options. So I mean, everybody wanted to bring Burnsy back, which
Everyone's
is fair.
They're so sad. They just miss him every day. Plus, I mean, how sick would it be to cover him, because he'd be just a blast. Sure. He would be super fun. So yeah, that's what I'm going to go with. That's going to do it for this week's episode. Thank you all for tuning in. We love you. Shout out to Let's Play Hockey. We are going to be at the Expo. Stay tuned for more details coming up. We're going to have some fun guests stopping by our booth at the Expo during the Boys State High School Tournament. Shout out to Andover and Warroad for winning the Girls State Tournament. Congratulations to those ladies, crushing it. And best of luck to all you youth players out there working toward the Minnesota Hockey State Tournament. Love it. And then while we're giving shout outs, I guess we got to shout out Talk North for featuring us on their network, SotaStick.com. They will be at the Expo with us. Be sure to check out their hockey hair t-shirt that they just released. They'll have some Bardown Beauties merch. So they will be right next to us to purchase all of that good stuff. BettorEdge, BETTOREdge.com, code Beauts, BEAUTS. Beat the Butte Tuesdays, me. Thursdays, Alexis. Every day against Fred. Just kidding, Fred.
I don't want to see Fred do Beat the Butte. Beat the producer. Watch him just sweep it. He just wins every time. I would probably quit if that were the case.
I'd quit. Yeah, exactly. Fred hosts
that means I have to play.
Yeah, exactly.
Get Fred in on Wednesdays. Wednesday night hockey.
So shout out to BettorEdge.com. Again, you can get a free $10 with code Beauts. And then Jim Beam, cheers to you. Cheers to me. Shout out to Iowa Wild and Mitch Courtney. Shout out to the Iowa Heartlanders. We had some fun content with their podcast. And you guys, as always, we love you. That's a lot, but we do. We appreciate you all. Have a great week, and we will see you next week.